Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Matchbook Horse Racing Podcast ahead of an excellent weekend's racing. Cheltenham is done and dusted. It was a great week we had at Cheltenham. We had some good Friday winners as well. Deasy rocked up with Vanillier at a big price. Well done, you, Sam, with Galopin des Champs. Beat my selection in that, which stood to make me have an up or a down week, and it was a down week as a result. So it's not your fault, Sam. Nothing personal. Adele's best bet. It's all right. I forgive you. Adele's best bet at the meeting. Honeysuckle. She was magnificent, wasn't she? So well done. You're all in good form for Cheltenham, and I'm pleased to say that we also, if you missed the announcement on Twitter, the Matchbook Betting Podcast did once again win Best Betting Podcast at the Smart Betting Club 2021 Awards. So it's the 3P, the hashtag 3P. Yeah. So we won it again, which is great news. Well done to everyone behind the scenes. Props to Sully as well. For those of you know who he is, he works very hard behind the scenes with all that and hosts the other podcasts as well. So great news. Deasy was sort of involved as well. Well done, Dease.
Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no worries. Got you back. But that is great news. Thanks to everyone who voted, genuinely, because it means a lot, and we're absolutely delighted with them getting that again. So 3 years on the bounce. Right, this is why we're the Best Betting Podcast, because we provide you with winners, I hope. But an offer details, first of all, it's going on till April the 12th. If you don't know it yet, for new customers only, the offer is Micheál, Deasy.
So our sign-up offer, if you sign up today with bonus code INSIGHTS, you're getting 0% commission on all sports until April 12th. So April 12th is the Monday after the Grand National meeting. So you're getting great value and the best possible prices on horse racing and every other sport as well until then.
There you go. New customers only. Be gamble aware and 18 plus. So if you sign up today with a new Matchbook account, you'll get 0% commission. So you'll be guaranteed best price. Even though you get it anywhere with the exchange, with that 0% commission, you'll be guaranteed best price. Right. The flat's back, everyone. Who's excited about the flat return? Adele is definitely pumped about the flat return. She's ecstatic. DC, happy about the flat returning, pal?
Yeah.
Oh, look at him! Look at the National Hunt guy.
I know. I just don't like the flat as much as the jumps, but the flat is it's interesting to get back into it as well, and just the two fields today, the Lincoln and the Constellation race, just going through them now this morning, just reminded me of how much tougher it is.
How brutal it is, yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. I got my system in place, so hopefully I can still pick a few winners in this.
You will. Definitely. You're in flying form throughout last year. Right, let's get stuck into the race previews then. So first of all, we're kicking off at Kempton. Got a couple of ITV races there. We start with the Magnolia Stakes, which is the 145 or the 1345, if you like. Unsurprisingly, at the top of the betting is Global Giant, a relatively warm order, given what he's achieved so far, around about 1.87 for that contest. You've got Faylark in there as well at 3.0, Stormy Antarctic at 7.0, Sky Defender 9.0, really any price you like for War Leader. We're nicely split on this, which I'm pleased about. So first of all, Dease, I know you're against the horse that was last seen in Saudi, so take it away.
Yeah, this could be a great or a bad start to the day. No, I'm going to lay him because just of the price he is, and maybe a trip to Saudi and back wouldn't have been fantastic preparation for this. Now I know he doesn't have much to beat in this race, but he's 1.87 now. He's probably going to go off a lot shorter than that. So if he's touching 1.6 or 1.7, I definitely lay him and hope that maybe he's just not spot on for this.
I agree. I think he might go off a little bit shorter than that, but you wouldn't at this current price. But if he does shorten up a good bit, there's a price that you get to where you'd hit the lay button and just. Well,
if he's at this price, I consider it as well. But this wouldn't be massive betting risk because
okay.
The rest of them Faylark is obviously very well bred and hasn't really lived up to that. He's probably the only one I think that could improve past him. But I just at the price and just because of his prep, I'd be laying him in this.
Personally, I got close to supporting Global Giant, but I'll probably just sit this one out. Personally, I do have in the back of my mind the Saudi prep, if you like. It not being ideal. Not many horses actually come back from Saudi runs last year and done hugely well, except for the filly. who trained by Saib bin Saror, who won at Meydan recently. Final Song, who has come out and won as a British horse after a run out in Saudi. I'm not really sure where he is, but I think he's definitely the best horse in the race. I can't really argue with his price, but I'll be sitting it out personally. Sam, what about you?
Yes, Tom, it's an intriguing little race. I wonder whether Sky Defender might get a freebie on the front. And I suppose if Deasy is looking to lay Global Giant, then that might be one of the better angles. Phelan looks as though, I think a tight 10 round here on the inner track, with a stop-start pace, that might not be a sufficient enough stamina test for him. And I'm just wondering whether he's getting teed up for a 1.5 mile race a little bit further down the line. So I'll keep it brief as well. I thought Global Giant would probably just sit on the heels of Sky Defender. Sky Defender's drawn 1, Global Giant drawn 2. He's a pretty uncomplicated horse. He can be ridden forward. And he's in the hands of a master who, even though he's travelled halfway across the world 5 weeks ago, I would imagine he's showing him the right sort of signs. Otherwise, he wouldn't be lining up here. So it's a good opportunity for him. That Steventon Stakes race has worked out exceptionally well. Extra Exclusive, who was third, won his next 2. Pablo Escobar won. He contributed to a strong pace that day, and I think there's been winners further down the list as well. So he'll do for me.
Nice of you to refer to Thady Gosden as a master. That's really kind of you, Sam. I respect that.
Well, it's Thady to you. It's Thaddeus to the rest of us, isn't it?
Quite right. Yeah, quite right too. Got to get it right. Adele, where are you? You with the Fav or against?
I'm with the Fav. I do understand what Deasy's saying, because it might just have taken a little bit out of him doing the international travelling, and then obviously out in Saudi, the horse that beat him, Simsir, also ran a poor race as well. So maybe that race did just take a little bit out of them in Bahrain, but he's got a fantastic record on the all-weather. What is he, 2 out of 4? Which is a big plus for me. Obviously, Gosden's have got a fantastic record in the race. They won it 5 times. My only worry was that I thought Sky Defender might just get an easy lead out in front. I do think he'll get his own way, and he's no mug. He holds his own. What was he, second in a Group 3 in Germany? He's got some good form to his name, but I think the one to beat is Global Giant.
Yeah, I think we're singing from a similar hymn sheet, 3 of us against Dease. But if he gets shortened up, then Dease is going to hit the lay button. I don't think it's big stakes for any of us on that opening contest. And Peter's Punt is back, by the way. I just thought I'd say afternoon again. Peter's Punt says afternoon all, and then mentions Jeff Kidder, because you've got to move on from that, Peter. It was great, but you've got listen, well done, but we move on from that. It was a great shout. Go on, Adele, what were you going to say?
I was just interested because Phelan is actually one of the horses that Jim Crowley put in one of his 5 to follow last year. So definitely maybe one to keep on side for the rest of the year. Obviously, I think, is he being gelded? Is he gelded? Yeah. So obviously something wasn't quite right last year, but might be one to keep an eye on for the rest of the year.
And I think another one of the horses he put up was Montatham, who runs in the next race that we're going to be looking at, which is at Doncaster. It's the 2 o'clock, which is the Doncaster Mile. This is a tight little heat. You've got at the top of the betting the filly Bounce the Blues, who's 4.0, 5.0 for Montatham, 5.5 for Top Rank, 6.0 for the returning Space Traveller. I mean, plenty of them returning. He's just had a little bit longer off. Father of Jazz, who was popular on this podcast, beaten in the trial last time, the Winter Derby. That wasn't the trial; it was the Winter Derby outright, wasn't it? 7.0. Juan Elcano is 7.5. Then into slightly bigger prices. So I'm going to come to you first, because I think you're probably going to say exactly how I feel about this race. So I'll let you do it all for me. So take it away.
I've nearly filed it. I mean, on a day at Doncaster where there's some impossible-looking races, this is right up there, to be honest. Obviously, when you're trying to analyse these races, it's complicated by the fact that not many of the horses have had runs, so you are guessing in a lot of respects as to their various levels of fitness. The front end of the market, I thought it was a 4 the field race, or a 5.0 the field race, if I'm honest. I thought Bounce the Blues had perfectly good claims. That Scepter filly stakes that she ran in has thrown up 3 or 4 winners, including Cloaker Spirits, who went on to beat her at Newmarket, where she did have a good 2 or 3 furlongs to get past Cloaker Spirits and couldn't manage it. But I think Andrew Balding's got incredible stats. I was just looking at the last 10 years. I think he runs at like a 24% strike rate in March, from a decent sample size. He's making a small loss to SP, but that's a pretty handsome strike rate, 24%, when you compare it and contextualize it with what he does for the rest of the year. So I wouldn't imagine that she'll be lacking for much fitness. She should be sharp and ready to go. And it's interesting that they've sort of targeted a return trip to Doncaster with her. So I can understand why she's well fancied. Montatham, obviously might be better suited by quick ground, and might well get that if we believe the stories that we're hearing from Doncaster this week. Various trainers and whatever have been up there and had a look at the ground, and there doesn't look a lot of giving it at the moment. We are supposed to get the odd little bit of precipitation in that area on Friday, but Saturday is supposed to be fairly dry and breezy. So he might well find conditions to his liking there. So they were the two really that sort of dominated my thinking. But I've also got a bit of time for Top Rank as well. Very, very impressed with him on occasion last year, not least at Firsk. And he also had the straight at York to try and get past Montatham and couldn't manage it in that very competitive handicap there. With that nice horse of Hugo Palmer's in second that day. So it's a really tight race for me. I've gone around the houses. I would probably take a small chance with Montatham. I think the draw has been a little kinder in stall 8, whereas Bouncer Blues is on the wing a little bit in 1. So I could have said that in about 15 seconds, really.
No, but you've genuinely, the draw thing was the only thing I was going to add to that, and then you got it in there, so that's great. The first start for a while, not that she races keenly necessarily, but they have in the past for previous collections tried to find her a little bit of cover. But I do just worry about that draw in comparison to Montatham, who I think is ideally drawn. I think him getting £5 from Top Rank means that he should be a point shorter than Top Rank, and he's only half a point. So I thought that just about edged him being the bet for me.
Yeah, I mean, she travelled like a dream in that Scepter Filly Stakes, didn't she? She was probably the last one off the bridle. She only had one behind her at the 2.5 pole, but she just couldn't reel in stablemate Foxtrot Lady, who probably was ridden a little bit further forward and kicked at the right time. She just didn't have that acceleration over the 7. But I think a flat mile, perhaps. I don't know whether she just flattened out a little bit at Newmarket on the climb to the line that day. I got a lot of respect for her. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see her win. I wouldn't want to be taking her on, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'd be in that camp. She hasn't won at the mile, but I think she proved last time she's fine at it. But if you're looking to crab her, you might just say, well, her best form's come at 7. But Montatham just for me. And Adele, am I accurate in saying that you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was having a look. There's not been many fillies that have actually won the race, have they? I know there was a second last year. That was my only negative in the ground, because I don't know if anyone's seen a couple of the social media tweets this week about the ground at Doncaster, and it just doesn't look very giving at all. So I wasn't quite sure whether the ground might be a little bit too quick for Bounce the Blues. Montatham, I think, was very progressive last season. He beat Top Rank. I'm like Sam, I've been through this race so many times because I like Father of Jazz. Obviously, I tipped him before, and Top Rank, he's such a progressive horse. He missed his 2-year-old career. He could be even better and stronger this year round. So he's
strange trip-wise, I thought, with Father of Jazz, the move they're making coming back to the mile.
Yeah, I suppose he can be quite keen, can't he? And he can race. He can race a little bit keen, so maybe that's why. I mean, they're all nice horses to follow for the rest of the season. That's the thing. But I think Montatham, I think I'm going to have on my side, and I don't think he's badly priced at all. He's the one for me. You know, he beat Top Rank at York as well last year, so I'm going to stick with him.
Sam, before we go to the Lone Wolf, Micheál, Deasy, what did you want to say?
Yeah, just a very quick line on Father of Jazz. I mean, Roger Varian's won, I think, 3 of the last 4 renewals of this race, and also had a placed horse as well. So, you know, I wouldn't be too quick to rule him out. I think he's got a fair bit of scope back on the grass, and I think, you know, straight miles should be ideal for him, provided they go good gallop here.
Yeah, he probably knows what he's doing, Rog. Probably.
Yeah,
just about. Right, so the 3 of us agree on in here again, and then here's Dee shouting about another horse, Juan Elcano. Go on.
Well, I do agree about Montatham, but I was, like, as Sam mentioned, I kind of approached today looking at horses who were good first time out last year, and I thought Juan Elcano ran his best race was in the 2,000 guineas. He finished 4th. Now the draw isn't great; he's out in 11, but that mightn't be a bad thing either. He can just get out now and maybe grab a rail. I think that if he's back to a mile, I think this is kind of calmer waters. Like, this is a very tough race, so I'd be going for Juan Elcano win only. Just what is he, about 7.5?
He is indeed. Win only for you, Juan Elcano 7.5.
Yeah, I'd stick with that. But Mantatum, I great respect for him. And he was the other one I was looking at, but I'm just going to go for the horse with the bigger price.
Fair dues. That's the Doncaster Mile, the second live ITV race on Saturday afternoon. Back to Kempton we go for the 2:15. This is the Rosebery Handicap. The field of 9 going for it this year. And the horse that heads the betting currently is Al Zarakan, who has shortened up a good bit towards the top. His owner companion, Al Migwar, is in there, who's a little bit bigger. Al Migwar is 5.0, and Al Zarakan currently sitting there at 2.2. Dark Pine is 6.0. Master the Stars is 7.0. United Front 8.0. Then we get into the double figure prices. Go on, Adele, you can kick us off with this.
I'm going to be very boring. I'm going to stick with the favourite, Al Zarakan, who I think's been very. I think he's been very progressive throughout the winter. He's a beautiful horse. If anyone's seen him, he's strong. He's got a bit of toe as well. He's beautifully bred by Shamadal. I know Tom Marquand spoke very highly of him after he won on him at Lingfield. I think there's loads to like about him. I thought he was quite impressive when he first stepped up to a mile 3 last time out. He beat a horse called Pirate King, who has since won. So form's working out well. I think he's the one to beat. I can see why he's the price he is. And I'm going to stick with him.
Sam, you can trumpet what Adele said now.
Well, I haven't got a lot to add, actually. I mean, obviously, he's related to Ortad, the Guinness winner in Ireland. As Adele said, Tom McCann was very effusive in his praise of him when he won and beat Pirate King. That was a very strong performance on the clock as well. Very good speed figure for that effort. The race has worked out quite nicely. Couldn't see tons of pace in this race, Tom, if I'm honest. Lawn Ranger, perhaps, Kindergarten Cop, a couple of the others. There was a host of front runners all sort of entered at the 5-day stage, the likes of Songkran and Sky Defender and Pavlicino, all those sort of horses, and none of them have made the lineup. So you'd like a good gallop to run at, really. But as Adele rightly points out, this horse doesn't lack a bit of toe. And he has got that acceleration. Any horse that can quicken at Lingfield as well, should be well suited to Kempton. It's just interesting, really, because it looked as though it was going to be, obviously in the week of Hamdan's passing, it would be nice for him to have a winner, certainly in these colours. It's interesting that Al Migwar was sort of thrown in there late. Rab Havlin was jocked up, I think, on a different horse for a different set of connections, and this lad's in there to take his chance as well, which surprised me because it didn't look as though that was the original plan. So just be perhaps wary if you're going to absolutely hammer the favourite here, that Al Migwar might well be there doing his best as well, because it did look a really good opportunity for Al Zarakan at one point with the declarations.
It's interesting you talk about Al Migwar. I don't like him a huge amount. I like the other two, and I didn't know whether to just back Dark Pine and Al Zarakan, or I wouldn't be laying Al Migwar at 5.0, but I am against him of all of them. He might well be really well treated, but he was off it a little bit earlier than ideal in that race won by Lunces, who I think is a progressive horse. We get to see that horse again. I know he's won over the trip before, but that was first time in a handicap, and I was really disappointed with the way he went about it. Now he might all of a sudden be better for having a little break or whatever, but I was against him of all of them. But I didn't know that he wasn't in it beforehand. What does that sort of tell you, Sam? The fact that he wasn't in and they've chucked him in last minute and Rab was dropped up on another one, then Rab rides that horse?
I don't know what it tells us, really. Perhaps it tells us that it's a great opportunity, perhaps with the ground drying out. Maybe it was always a little bit of the plan, and maybe one or two of the sites were a little bit late in updating, etc. But, I'm not quite so quick to damn him. He was disappointing, but he'd been off, hadn't he, from July to October, so I'd forgive him perhaps that performance. And he's a 4-year-old. They still haven't cut him. He's by Dabawi. You just wonder whether they have greater plans for him this year. And it's interesting reading a lot of the background on sort of Sheikh Hamdan's operation in the last 6 to 12 months, that they have been looking to streamline and perhaps not keep as many older horses in training, for obvious reasons. But we've got a couple on the card really that are 4-year-olds and look backward types that have been kept and not been sold on and not gone to dispersal sales yet. So You know, I would clearly feel that they're well above average, and Connections really feel as though they could make up into pattern race performers in time.
I'm going to stick with small stakes. Dark Pine, who is progressive, and since they put the blinkers back on with New Connections, and might just be a touch underestimated. But I do think that the Fav Al Zarakan will be capable of giving £3 to his owner companion. I think he's a really, really smart sort. So I'll be small stakes, both of those. 2 bets in a tight little heat where I don't massively fancy anything. But look, small stakes in that, and against the second in the betting. Deasy, you sitting this one out?
I'll be with you on Dark Pine, but I think that, like as Sam said, I think the top 2 are going to be very good. They'll probably progress on a lot from this. But Dark Pine has his last win. He improved massively from the first race. He beat the same horse, but he beat him by 3.5 lengths in the second race. He'd be a real filthy place betting this now. He could definitely hit third, like, but you're going to be getting probably odds on 1.8 or 1.9. But I think I'd have a bet off him at that anyway. I think he can finish third or maybe second.
And there is Kindergarten Cop, who is one of the best named horses in training, just to say, son of Ken D'Argent. It's a great film and it's a great name, let's be honest. Helen has said, thinking about the flat is like jumping into an ice bath. Hi, Helen. Nice to have you back. That's for you, Dease, I think.
That's not that bad, Helen. Come on.
This really freshens you up. All right, good. Anything to add to that, to Rosebery Handicap? Pretty positive about the horse at the top of the betting, and Dease has got a filthy each way one, place one even. All right, we move on to the easiest race of the day to solve, the Spring Mile, the 2:35. Had to wait to the 11th hour to know what was definitely running here. Rather than, I'll let you, because there's so many runners and big prices, 22 runners, and it's basically 8.0 the field. I'll let you give your selections, and I'll give you the prices that they are at. So go on, Dease, you can kick us off.
I'm going to go for Arctic Vega. Delighted to hear Sam's stat there about Andrew Balding and Marsh there a few minutes ago. I watched his last race there recently, and I just thought that he pulled so hard during the race and still had enough in the tank to win Cosley. That was that. And just bring up here, that was at Newcastle. He beat Marber. He just got out of the stalls and was just pulling the arms out of the jockey for the first half mile, I'd say. But once he settled, and he was very, very impressive from there and to the line. I think he could be. He's going to be a nice price for this. But is he about 8.0? That'd do me. I'd be happy enough for him. This is a tough race. This was a bit like jumping into a nice bet.
We're all pretty much focusing towards the top of the betting. I wasn't sure what price my selection was going to be, to be honest, but he is towards the top. Does anybody? So Arctic Vega's drawn 7. I personally am looking a little bit higher than that. I just thought that's where the guaranteed pace was. Sam, do you have anything to add to the pace in the race?
Yeah, I thought from what I could see, I mean, obviously you've got Saibin Saro's runner in 11, who can be a free, exuberant type, who's dropping back in trips. So I wouldn't have thought they'd be riding him for speed. So you've got him in 11, Dowley 12, Mostawa 14, possibly Overwrite in 20. Artistic Rifles doesn't like to be too far away. So I thought middle to high for me, to be honest. That'd be the way I'd be going. And
has that led your selection?
A little bit, yeah. I do like Artistic Rifles anyway, because he's going to be right up against a rail. He's obviously got a lot of Doncaster form on fast ground as well. If they split into 2 groups, I think that might suit him, because some of his better form is in slightly smaller fields than this. But I thought he ran really well at Newcastle on his comeback for Ed Bethel, who's taken over the licence from his father this year. A little spell in Italy as well, this horse, which we'd all enjoy, I'm sure. And just that Newcastle race is already working out quite nicely. A couple of horses have come out of it and gone in since. He travelled really well that day over 7. I think back up to the mile on decent ground, up against the standside rail. Andrea Azzini, the king of Town Moor, on board, has been booked. I shall definitely be backing him win and place in this, I think.
Yeah, he loves it, Donny, doesn't he? At Zany, absolutely loves it. Adele, you've got a couple for this. Have you one of those in agreement with Sam?
I've got a couple. Yeah, completely agree with everything with Sam, especially with the pace and stuff. I've got Mascat, who I thought was very likable as a 2-year-old. He won over a mile, and then he was just a little bit quiet last year, but he did run some good races in defeat. He was second to Brentford Hope, who was obviously one of the fancies for the Lincoln. So sometimes if they've had a little bit of a quiet spell, I think he's been gelded as well. So he's another one I thought might just be a little bit better this year. I think off a mark of 89, I think that's very workable. There's loads of winners in his family, so I think he's a bit better than what his bare form of last year shows. And then I've got Dowerleeb, who never runs a bad race, and Artistic Rifles as well. So just the ones that are drawn kind of around middle to high. I think we're going to get a toe in off Dubai Souk and overright of Mark Johnson. So we've had 50-1 winners twice, 20-1 winners. It's hard, isn't it? I don't think has there even been a favourite winner since not in the last 10 years anyway. So I do think you get loads of value, don't you, in the Spring Mile? But they're the three I've picked out, and I think hopefully they'll be big enough to have a nice place bet on them. I
remember Higher Claim a few years ago. Didn't it beat a horse who was really was the Fav second, and Higher Claim rocked up at 51.0 and caused a right shock. I agree. Looking at the middle to high, we'll probably all be completely wrong, but there you go. I thought Hugo Palmer's horse Acquitted there's just a chance he could be incredibly well treated, and maybe you look at that Palace Pier form and go, he was flattered, and the third's done nothing. He's only £2 higher now, but he ran so badly the next two starts that I'm willing to say it was too bad to be true. The horse has been gelded. He had half decent form as a juvenile. He's no slouch, and I just thought, he's well drawn. He could be really well treated. 9.5 was fair enough to probably just in the win market, because he's tailed off last on his last couple of starts, but he hasn't been seen for a long time, been gelded, and there was enough promise fresh last year in that Newcastle race behind Palace Pier for me to just go, I'll have a little bit. I can see that's worth having a go at. And the other one was Artistic Rifles as well, for pretty much the reason that Sam said. Again, I think well drawn in 21. I'd forgotten the Andrea factor, but I like that. I'll follow you in on that. And I quite like he's had a recent start. There are so many horses coming back off a break that actually the fact that he's had a recent run is, I think, no bad thing. So those would be my two against the field. Did you have any others, Sam? I feel like I cut you off pretty sharpish, or were you done with Artistic?
Yeah, I did have one or two that I had on the shortlist, obviously, but I think it would require there to be a fair bit of rain. I wouldn't mind the claims of the likes of Poet's Lady in 8 if there was a bit of cut in the ground. I don't know whether she's totally dependent on the ground, because we haven't seen a lot of her in recent times, but I thought if it was, proper March weather and proper March ground at Doncaster, she would have been nearly favourite for this. And a wee dram, another one with Kevin Frost now after, a good spell with Alan King. Kevin's had him, 2 or 3 starts. He's starting to drop in the handicap a little bit. I think if the rains come somewhere this March, perhaps even Newbury, bit of soft ground. They have a similar handicap, don't they? So I'd be keeping him on my to watch list, but I don't know whether, reasonably fast ground at Town Moor, drawn low here, would seem to the best of effects, but I'll be watching and see how he runs anyway. If a wee dram wins, I'm going to have a wee dram, because he came out my tracker at the end of the last flat season. I've given up the ghost a little bit. Don't give up on him just yet. No, I think I backed him at Haydock last year, where I thought he was going to go on and win, and he couldn't quite get there. So maybe he'll go back in that tracker, Sam. Maybe he will get back in there after tomorrow. Right, jumping. We switch our attention to jumping in the 250 at Newbury for this 2 mile 3 furlong novices handicap hurdle. Again, I think it's a tough old day, it's fair to say. Good Ball then is 4.0. Hudson de Grugy is 4.5. Hooper is 6.5. Mount Windsor is 7.5. One True King is 9.5, and then into the double figures. Straight back at you, Sam. Who do you like and why? I'm a bit of a Good Ball fan. I must admit, I do like the horse as an individual. I think he's going to make a smashing novice chaser next year. I was absolutely gutted that he was beaten by Gower Road, but that didn't seem to be too bad a performance, really, on the face of it. I thought that was a nice enough effort. I mean, travelled like much the best horse through that race, as he did in the first time hood on his debut at Newbury as well. I think it's interesting that the Nichols team had him in that quite valuable juvenile handicap, I think, on Sunday, and they're choosing to run him at Newbury instead. I think 131, I'm not sure that's a correct Well, we'll find out on Saturday afternoon, obviously, but I'm not sure that's a correct interpretation of the amount of ability this horse has got, to be honest. And I'll take a small chance with him. The only query is the drying ground. I'm not sure how he's going to cope with that. We don't know what the ground's really going to be like at Newbury. If they have a little bit of rain the next 24, 48 hours just to freshen it up a bit, that wouldn't be a bad thing, because we know that he operates on it. But I do think he's got a fair bit of quality, this horse, and he's been kept fresh. And this time of year, he's taken on a lot of horses here, the likes of Mount Windsor, sometimes Always, Hudson de Grugy, Hooper. They've been to the track 5, 6, 7 times. We're getting towards that point in the year now where you want really fresh horses and horses that haven't got a lot of miles on the clock, and he certainly fits that criteria.
All right, and I think Deasy can give us a counter argument to that. Yeah, tell you what, have you upset Deasy today, Sam? Because he's disagreeing with basically everything you're saying.
Well, he'd be very wise to be honest.
not so. Go on, Deasy.
It's never wise to disagree with Sam. Never wise.
Agreed.
I just don't fancy Good Ball at the price. He could be a very good horse, but I just think he's coming in here against some battle hardened horses, and like the one I like is Mount Windsor, the top weight, which could go very, very wrong. But I just think that he's been kicking aside lesser horses like these lads. I think good ground with great from he's very not very progressive. He's probably just about on the right mark now. But I think he can just go off out in front of these and just destroy this field. I had him on my mind he was entered in the Betfair hurdle, but he didn't go into it. He would have been a nice big price. He won very well recently. I just think he could be a bit of a galloping machine, and he could have too much for these younger horses. Hudson de Grugy I thought was interesting as well, but I think this is hot enough company for Good Ball, and I don't as you said. No, I think it'll probably be chasing will be his game eventually, and I would rather go at something at a bigger price. I think that Mount Windsor with Fergus Gregory taking 3 off, that'll help us a small bit. I think he's a very good horse, and I'll be happy enough to back him at about 7.5.
Yeah, win and place.
Yeah, I suppose you're getting 3 places. You're getting 3 places at the moment, so a bit more winning place.
Quite right. quite right too. Adele.
Well, I do like football, but like Deasy was saying, I just think he might be up against some kind of tough rivals, and I've gone for one even bigger at a bigger price. Sometimes Always, who's been in really good form this winter, winner at Weatherby, winner at Doncaster. Won a jumpers bumper as well. Just thought he might have been out of his depths in a grade 3 last time out, so drop back down in class. Hopefully we'll see him get back on song, and hopefully can hold his own. But he's a big price, so I think you could easily play him at the place bet for a horse. I think he's got a really good attitude. He can hang a little bit left under pressure, but he seems to always get the job done.
Sometimes Always is 11.0 for Charlie Todd and Ian Williams, right. And I'm going to go for one at an even bigger, slightly bigger price as small stakes. And obviously this horse ran very recently when was brought down 3 out, Press Your Luck. That was just a week ago. But I remember him doing an interview, Chris, right at the start of the season, and him talking really positively about this horse. He pulled up, he entered him in a grade 2 at Ascot, and he was pulled up in that. He then ran in a jumpers bumper. I just think he's better than a mark of 129, and I'd go very small win and place. I wouldn't be with or against Good Ball. I find him too difficult to work out personally. I can see the angle Sam's talking about with the fact that he's a fresh horse and he could be really well treated, but I do think there's an element of him being priced up on his connections, and so I would just let him run and have a small bit on Press Your Luck. And Chris Gordon will probably laugh at me because he's got 2 in the race, and maybe that's one without a chance. So there you go. Anything to add to that Novices Handicap hurdle, ladies and gentlemen? Should we get stuck into the real easy one of the day? The Lincoln Handicap. Do you like the addition of the word handicap there, or do you just think Lincoln on its own would have been good? What do you think, Sam?
You need it, don't you?
You probably do.
Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
DC maybe has the word handicap, you see. He's probably right. This is easy to solve. So Fav's going to win it. Dease, go on. You can kick us off with this one. Well, he's muted. What an amateur. Disappointing.
There we go. Probably better off muted with my selection. So I'm going to go for Daniel first, Owen Burrows' horse. He actually finished behind River Nymph last season over 7 furlongs, but he was staying all day. I just think that this year probably has a few well-handicapped horses in it because they had a bad season there 2 seasons ago. He looks a nice horse. I think the draw is fine. He's going to be about 13.0, 14.0, so I'll have a small win and a good place betting him. I think a mile and good ground will really suit him, and that he will stay the trip. And the other one, I'm going to have a win-only bet on Brentford Hope, because I watched his first race and he was just awesome, and I watched his last race and he was awesome, and all the ones in between weren't great, but he just seems like the perfect Jamie Spencer horse that they can just travel all over everything. So he'll either win it or come nowhere. So I'll have a small little win bet in him as well.
Yeah, he's 9.0, as you're saying. Daniel's 13.0. I know what you mean about Brentford Hope. The epitome of a bridle monkey, but very talented. Make no mistake about that. Helen said she quite likes Ascension for the Lincoln. Can't have anything too short. I can, Helen. I can. Peters likes a long place bet. I do think this horse at the top of the betting, 4.5 by Eastern World. Charlie Apple's won it a couple of times. I like the fact that he had a run out of Maidan. He went off, I think, outsider of the Godolphin horses that day. The first in the betting for Team Godolphin, ridden by William Buick, was absolutely hammered as if defeat was out of the question. But this horse won on merit. He was really good. He dominated. He dictated. I do think he's a bit of a tool under a £5 penalty. And I just wondered if, given his price, they were using that as a bit of a prep for this, and he still went and won, and it wasn't quite expected. I'm not sure the draw will be so key here as I think it might be for the trial, the Spring Mile. But I don't think it matters a huge amount where he is necessarily. There is a bit of pace just on his outside. Whether or not James Doyle chooses to go forward or not, be interesting to see. But I think he could just be a bit of a tool. So I'd be having a win bet on him. And I'll be having a place bet on a big old price, 26.0 for Uzo, who I'm still convinced is a well-treated horse. He won at York last time in a big field on soft ground. Maybe he wants a bit of juice in the ground, and he didn't always shape that way, but he can start the season particularly well. He did a couple of years ago, and I still think there's a little bit left there off a mark of 97. He looks as though he's done his winning, but he proved back over a mile last time he was too good for them. He's up £5, very much a win and place bet, but he was a much bigger price than I thought he'd be for a last time out winner. I know it's his reappearance. I thought he should have won on his reappearance last year when he was nabbed by Bell Rock, but he's only £6 higher than that, and he was sent off joint favourite and well supported there. So 26.0 for me and Uzo. Sam Turner.
Well, you've very eloquently talked about the head of the market, really, guys. I thought it was a desperately hard race, and I mean, it's like 4.5 and 5.0, the front two in the market in the Lincoln. At least when Adele won and beat Lord Glitters, you were getting decent prices in the morning, and they got well back because of conditions. Bookmakers seem to have factored it well in already. That we've already got 2 horses in the race, which look potential group race performers in time, and they've already been factored into the prices. So it's not my way really to have a look at those sort of horses. They might well win. Hikiki has already won at the track. Should be well suited by stretching out to a mile this year on decent ground. Obviously, nice middle position as well. One of the £7 apprentices that's going to catch the eye this summer, you would think, in Benoit de la Sayette, already booked. Pace either side of him, perhaps. I didn't see a lot low, and probably 1 or 2 horses drawn low as well that are going to appreciate some juice in the ground and might well be better off a more stronger pace on that side of the track. I didn't see a lot that really wanted to blast along there, whereas I thought Eastern World, because he's free, Born to be Alive will press the pace. Dashing Roger can go forward. They dropped Man of the Night in last time at Wolverhampton. That didn't suit him. I thought he might be ridden forward down the rails. So I could see more pace sort of middle to high again, if I'm honest. Might not work out like that, but that's how I read it at this stage. So I'm going to have just a couple of speculative place bets with small win bets alongside. They seem to be huge prices in the anti-post market. So Dashing Roger was a horse that I was very taken with last year for William Stone. He did really well with him. He won under all sorts of different ground, all sorts of different tracks, whether it be Leicester on soft ground or Yarmouth on fast ground. But really versatile horse. Can't quite understand the price that he is. He had a little warm up at Kempton over 10 furlongs, blasted off from the front, faded, beaten miles. So he's in at ridiculous odds today. And the other horse I really like, who's produced, I think, well, 2 of his last 3 performances have been, well, the handicappers suggest that they've been career best performances. And that's Scottish Summit, who for me just wants a straight mile, decent ground, anywhere away from York, because he's run there half a dozen times and only run well once. So I think anywhere away from there. He's obviously very potent at Redcar. He's run okay at Doncaster. He's just the type of horse, Newmarket as well, both tracks. Strong gallop, straight mile, decent ground, and goes particularly well for Sam James. I think if you strip out the York performances from his CV when Sam's ridden him, I think he's been placed out all one on 9 of the 15 occasions he's ridden him. So at 51.0 and the potential to get even bigger, I'll take a bit of a chance with him in a race where the front of the market doesn't really float my boat that much.
Yeah, and they're both hovering at similar sorts of prices. And as you say, I think you might well, depending on what happens in the paper and whether they get put up at big prices, you could well be looking at pricing up and getting some really big prices on the day. Would you be split stakes win and place, Sam, with those? Yeah,
I think I think Dashing Roger for me, he's still got some upside. Scottish Summit, obviously at the age of 8, and an ex Sir Michael Stout. But I mean, Jeff Harker's all-weather team have been in quite good nick this winter. I think he's had a couple of winners from 8 or 9 runners since the turn of the year. So at least the yard are in among the winners. Sam James goes well on him. I do think he's a massive price, Scottish Summit. With the place side of the bet, probably the most alluring one.
And you've talked about the top of the market there. Auxerre, year before the last time this race was run, went off at 3.5 and went on and won. Adele, what do you make of Eastern World?
If I was still riding, I would want to be on Eastern World. I was really impressed with him at Meydan, and what I really like about him is I like his gate speed out, because he did well to win from where he was drawn. That I think I'll stand him in good stead at Doncaster, because the race usually evolves around the pace in the race, the likely pace angle. I mean, sometimes they can split into 3 groups, sometimes they'll stay straight up the middle. It just depends where all the pace is, and I think Eastern World has got plenty of pace. To be out the gates, gone. You do need to hold your fractions well. He galloped straight through the line over a mile 1, in a straight mile at Doncaster. I definitely think he's the one to beat. I had him down. I can't really see much past him, to be honest with you. Obviously, James Doyle has won the race twice. Hikiki was quite impressive when he won at Doncaster, but he has been beat over a mile. And interesting, because Eastern World was second in that race when he ran quite poorly, but the times were actually quite quick that day. So I just wondered, he kind of maybe likes more of a slower run race where it gives him time to get into his gears. Obviously, he's only a 4-year-old and he's still quite lightly raced. But when he did win at Doncaster, his times were very good, from the 3 to the 2 to the 2 to the 1 to the finish line. Were better than any of the horses in the race. So he's clearly got a lot of ability at Kiki. I'm just not quite sure he'll have the kind of turn of foot and pace to go with Eastern World. And he's the one, I think he's the one to beat. And then just for a little bit of a place bet, Brunch, who is trained by Michael Dodds. I backed him on his first start at Doncaster. I don't know if anyone's seen him when he jumped out the stalls and started bucking and bronking and was like, I couldn't believe it. I got 33-1 the night before. He was 16s, finished 4th. I was absolutely mortified. I backed him each way, but he's a little bit quirky. Sometimes Michaels do need the first run of the season, but he's a really nice horse, and I think he'll be even better this year. And I think he's a big enough price for you to have a nice little place bet on him.
Yeah, Brunch is 17.0. Just on the draw you mentioned, Adele, with the riders up at Donny, do you think they have sort of any hard and fast ideas as to where you want to be in a big field handicap, or does it just depend on the pace and it's a fair track?
Depends on the pace, honestly. The pace, it's always in a straight race. It's always the pace in the race. That's because I like Brentford Hope, but he's drawn 3, so that was a bit of a negative for me. And I think you want to be. They seem to favour kind of middle. Really, don't they, at Doncaster? They tend to just stay in a straight line.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. I wonder if the consolation race will have an impact on it. Let's move on from the Lincoln Handicap. And we'll go to the Mayor's Novices Hurdle at Newbury. This is the 325. It's a limited handicap. And Rose of Arcadia 6.0. Misty Whiskey is 6.5. 8.0 Little River Bay. Same price 9.0 Lily Peddler and Kilmington Rose and Marauder before into the slightly bigger prices. Right, Team Rose of Arcadia, step forward. Deasy, you in that camp? We should just sack him, shouldn't we? We should get him. We should sack him permanently.
Oh God,
that's a fine.
I'm just gonna stop doing it. You can hear me. I'm very much in the Rose of Arcadia camp. I thought she was awesome the last time in very, very heavy ground. Now this is going to be different ground, but I thought she just travelled all over them. She looks a good horse. Obviously got fantastic connections, and I think the Tizzards may be hitting a small bit of form. They had a few good seconds there at the festival. I think that she's a lovely price for us. I know she's the favourite. No, I did another horse and I called Fantastic Lady who came out, but Rose of Arcadia was the second and the shortlist. So I'm happy enough to stick with her.
Good man. Rose of Arcadia, nice and concise. They might just be hitting form the Tizzards. Sam.
Yeah, I like her. I must admit, the ground might be a slight question mark, mightn't it? Unless we have a little bit of rain. She might be better for it. We saw with a lot of Irish horses at Cheltenham that they absolutely relished the opportunity to get on some better ground, and their jumping improved. They looked to have lots more inherent speed than we thought they were capable of, and it might be the case with her. I think she's had that nice light prep, comes in here, mark of 120, looks a little bit on the lenient side for me. I think if she handles the ground okay, I think she's got a great chance. And I'll probably back her, and I'll probably back Marauder as well, whose form's working out quite nicely. She's been a little bit more industrious, but I think she might have caught them out a little bit, the Skeltons, that she's just kept thriving and improving. We saw last autumn on decent ground that she'd got a good turn of foot and a good level of ability, and she's carried that forward. She's had a little bit of a mid-season break from December to February, so they've kept her nice and fresh, and she hasn't been trained for all 6 months of the jump season. And then that defeat of Pavlovsky, which was recorded in a pretty genuine time, has been enhanced since, with that horse going in very comfortably subsequently. So she's got a fair chunk of weight, and if you look through the stats of this race, it's always often won by something a little bit lower down the handicap. But I don't think it's the classiest renewal. I mean, Roxana won this 2 years ago, and it's dangerous sometimes to say, oh, it doesn't look a great race until you've actually seen the race run and you can appraise it properly. But, you have got horses that have snuck in the bottom here off a mark of, 118, 113 Kilmington Rose. That hasn't always been the case with this race. Sometimes it used to be well contested and well filled. So I think Marauder, she has got the little bit of a question mark over the trip. She's got to answer that, but she looks as like she stays okay. She certainly operates on good ground, so she should travel around here for fun. It's just whether the stamina lasts out for that last 2 or 3 furlongs or not. But I'll have a split stakes on the both rather than backing one of them each way.
And Marauder and Rose of Arcadia, just as Sam said, it used to be the case that you couldn't carry more than 11 stone to win this race. Then I think each of the last 4 winners have all done that. So I wonder if it is just changing face a little bit. Marauder 9.0, Rose of Arcadia 6.0. And Adele, once again, you and Sam, you've basically been doing your homework together.
I can't believe it. I'll be having split stakes as well. And purely it's because Rose of Arcadia wasn't quite sure about the ground, because all her wins, a point-to-point win, her bumper win, and her latest win has been on heavy ground, so I wasn't quite sure how she'll fare ground-wise, but she's definitely progressive, and her form's working out really well. The seconds won, the thirds won, and then I do also like Marauder as well, who I think's got bags of speed. I just thought if she got an easy lead out in front, then like Sam's already said, if she's got that little bit of stamina needed for the end, then I think she could be hard to peg back.
And I'm just going to have a go at Rose of Arcadia. I was at Wincanton when she was beaten a couple of starts ago, and she you can see why she cost a bit. She's just beautiful looking, but she was just done for toe, I thought. And then she came out subsequently, and she appreciated Wincanton going up in trip. She wasn't all that spectacular, but I think 120 could massively underestimate her, and I thought she was the right favourite, but I thought she might just be a little bit shorter personally. So just the one for me. I haven't got a huge amount to add to Rose of Arcadia, other than this is definitely her trip now, and first going a handicap with the Tizzards just bouncing back to form. They had horses run really well last week at Cheltenham. I thought she was very much the right favourite. So Rose of Arcadia for me. Giles has been in touch. He puts up Grove Ferry, making the 6+ for the Lincoln, around about 17.0 for Bull. Tell you, Andrew Balding's got a good strike rate this time of year. I dug that stat out myself. Let's kick on to the Cammidge, the 345. This is. Did anybody have anything to add to Newbury? Sorry, chaps. We're happy with that. All good. Lovely job. Cammidge Trophy then. Good old Brando making a reappearance. Rated 116 now off the back of that excellent running Group 1 company at Ascot. Was beaten over course and distance last time. Is 4.0. 5.0 Just Frank. Sam's favourite horse, Summergand, is 6.0. 7.5 Emirati Anna. It's a tight little heat. Then we get into the slightly bigger prices. I've teed you up for a bit of Summergand, Sam, so you can take it away. I take it it's not sort of nuts out massive stakes, but you're confident it'll go well.
I think it'd have to be a walkover for me to get my nuts out, Tom, to be honest. It'd have to be Maracuja. I think Summergand will probably get the 20% win, 25% win, 75% place sort of approach, really. 3 starts at Donny. I think he's finished 4th, 7th and 1st. David Nolan's got a good record on him. If you strip out the 2 runs on very soft ground at York, which wouldn't necessarily play to his strengths, I think he's finished 4th in an Ayr Gold Cup, 2nd in a tough Newmarket Handicap, 3rd again at Ayr, and then won at Doncaster, 6 furlong, good to firm ground handicap as well. So he obviously gets a good tune out of Summergand, which is very, very important for a horse of this nature, really, who is tricky. I just thought the fact that he was fit well, operates on the track, the ground should be no problem. Had a good look at Mr. Lupton. He hasn't got the greatest record fresh, but he often runs quite well fresh. And I just wonder, he's 1-2-2 at Doncaster. I could see him running really well without necessarily winning. He's also 0 from 7 for Paul Hannigan. He hasn't ever won before May as well in his career. So I wonder whether he's just been teed up for a return trip to the Curragh or something like that a little bit later in the season. Brando's a great old stick. He's won off, I think, 180 days, 187 days, 200 days and 296 day breaks. So he clearly goes particularly well fresh, but he's drawn 2. He might just be a little bit isolated over there. So I'll go with Summergand, as I say. Small win, relatively large place, perhaps.
Yeah, 6.0 for Summergand. Deasy?
I'm going to go for Royal Commando. I was just looking through this field, kind of seeing what could improve. And again, like his first run of the year last year was when he finished 4th at Ascot at absolutely gigantic prices. The Mind Sprinter's getting a bit older. I think it helps him. I think he's a nice horse. He has won at Doncaster before over 6.5 furlongs and good to firm ground. He's going to be about 17.0. So I'd be small win, good chunky place on him.
For Charlie Hill, 17.0 for Royal Commando. Adele, top of the market or bigger?
Well, towards the top of the market, I actually thought it might have been a bit bigger. Just Frank, I think he's a bit of a dark horse. Paul actually seen Brando working at Malton Gallops the other day. Said he looked really well. I'd love to see Brando win because he's such a fantastic servant. He's earned over $1 million in prize money. I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it? But Just Frank is a horse that Lewis Edmonds he's always held him in quite high regards, and he said last year he thinks he's a Royal Ascot horse, Just Frank. So I've got him down as a bit of a dark horse and one to follow, and I don't think there's a huge amount of pace on in the race. He's very fast, Just Frank, and he could get out and just maybe get an easy lead out in front. He's also 1/7, so he's got a little bit of stamina there as well. So I think he's going to be a nice horse to follow for the rest of the season. He was second to Lipizzaner, who then went on to finish 4th in the out in America in the Breeders' Juvenile Sprint. So he's got a little bit of form there to hand as well, because I wasn't quite sure how strong his form was from Newmarket. Obviously, he won the valuable Tatterstall's auction stakes, but he's a nice horse for Les Ayres and a nice horse for Lewis Edmonds, because he's a rider who rides really well. He just could do with a couple of Saturday horses, and a win on him might just kind of help raise his profile because he's a very good rider. So I'm going to go with Just Frank.
Just Frank for you. 6.0, second in. it's good to hear Brando is looking well. I mean, I personally I'd just be against Brando. I know he can win fresh. He just can blow it at the start, and he ran a really good race on very different ground to what it's likely to be at Ascot. But I'm not quite sure. I wonder if 116, based upon that effort, just flatters him ever so slightly now. For I'd love to see him win. I thought there was a really good. What does Deasy say? Filthy each way bet. Deasy, give me a filthy.
50 in this race.
Oh, I just wanted to hear you say filthy, Deasy.
Oh,
that
filthy.
was it. And then I was worried that you weren't going to unmute yourself, and that I'd absolutely done the wrong thing. I've got a filthy each way one though, Deasy, which is Mr. Lupton. I think he's an absolute nailed on to finish in the 3. And he was placed in. I think he was second in this a few years ago, and he does want a lot of pace. We know that, but. And there is pace, but maybe not enough to see him win. But I thought 11.0. I couldn't believe he was the price he was. He has won here before, and he's probably at his very best in a big field handicap. For all he has won in Pattern Company before. He's got a little bit to find with the likes of Brando, but if you take the view that I do, that the Brando's a little bit flattered by that current mark, I just thought he'll be running on, and I think he's a tremendous place bet. I'll have a small win bet, but a best bet stakes place bet on Mr. Lupton. I thought he was a very good shout at that sort of price for the Cammidge. And before we get into best bets, I can remind you of the sign-up offer. So that is, well, Deasy to do it all again, but it's matchbook.com/promo/insights. Make sure you use the code insights to sign up to that. All capital letters for insights. That's a new Matchbook account, and you get 0% commission on all sports until April the 12th. You'll be best odds guaranteed. And thank you again to those of you who voted in the Smart Betting Club Awards. We were pumped to win Best Betting Podcast yet again. Best bets time. Deasy, who's your best bet, pal?
I'm going to go for Juan Elcano in the 2 o'clock in Doncaster. Small win and a good place bet.
Juan Elcano for Deasy. And Sam?
I'll go Artistic Rifles in the 235. We're likely to have sort of enhanced places on offer as well to back in the place market there, or not, do you think?
Go on, Deasy.
We can get whatever you want, Sam. You would have let me know.
5 or 6 places would be nice. If you can get those put up.
Yeah, we can definitely get 5 up anyway. So
yeah. I think he's got a good chance. Hopefully he can build on that Newcastle performance. He showed himself to be in good form there. The Yard have made a quite bright start or the new trainers made a quite bright start to take it home from his father. They've had a bit of success already. So with Andrea on, drawn up the stand side, hopefully he'll go well.
Job done. Can I get 5 places in the Cammidge Trophy, Deasy? that'd be great.
I'm just checking here now, Tom. Give me a few minutes.
That's unlikely, isn't it? That's unlikely for the Cammidge Trophy. My best bet, my best bet is going to be Mr. Lupton in that. 3 places fine for me at 11.0 in the place market is the best bet. For I'll be having a small win on him as well. And Adele, your best bet on Saturday?
My best bet, I'm going to go in the Lincoln. Bit of a hard one, but I'm going to go with Eastern World. I think, like I said, if I was still riding, I think he'd be the one I'd want to be on.
It was nearly mine. So there you go. I'm glad we got that covered as well. Eastern World, the current favourite for the Lincoln, to win another one for Charlie Appleby, James Doyle on board. That's it. 8 races done in under an hour. I promised it'd be 45 minutes, and true to my word, I'm about 12 minutes late. There we are. Deasy, thanks very much, pal. Pleasure as always.
Thanks, mate.
Sam, lovely job. Thank you, sir. Have a good weekend.
Good luck, Tom.
Adele, thank you. You back on ITV duty on Saturday morning?
Back on all day.
All day.
All day. Double bubble.
Good luck. You are known as the flat handicap queen, aren't you? So you've got to find Eastern World's got to do the job.
I know. Fingers crossed. I'm going to look terrible if he doesn't win.
No pressure.
I don't think you will. It's about 25 runner handicap at Doncaster. I don't think anyone's going to be judging you on that one performance, Adele. Don't worry.
Good luck with that this Saturday. Thanks everyone for joining us. Thanks again for voting in the SBC Betting Club Awards. Delighted with that, and we'll see you again soon. Have a good weekend.